prepared for an emergency is better than not being prepared at all. I don't know if any of you have heard the term prepper. Some of you have, some of you haven't. But preppers are people who prepare for the unexpected. Could be a natural disaster, it could be losing your job. Just depends on what it is. According to experts, in 2010, there were at least 4 million American preppers in our country. And that's obviously had to have gone up. Economics. The world is not in a very good place right now, financially. That has nothing to do with natural disasters or anything else that could happen. So being prepared for anything is always a good plan. Making sure that your family is aware that you may or may not have to stay in your house for a while if there's an emergency happening or something like that. You might want to have food and water and stuff like that available. During World War II and during the Depression, people had what they called victory gardens. And people would have a 10-acre garden. And during that time, the Americans were able to provide 40% of vegetables needed to feed America. 40%. That's pretty good, considering we export and import, and we usually import way more than we export. This year alone, the dollar has fell 11% compared to the euro. So, if you were to have a dollar in 1913, your dollar would have to be $27 now to make up what it would have been a dollar in 1913. That's quite a bit of inflation. Usually whenever the dollar goes down, things are cheaper. However, inflation is going up at the same time, making things just more expensive, and you don't have enough money to pay for everything. So when you do have enough money, you go to the grocery store and buy a little bit extra stuff here and there, and it will help add up after a while. You can store a lot of different things. As far as dry goods, you can buy dried milk, rice, beans, dried coffee, canned foods, anything in like Mylar bags and stuff like that will last for a long time. This lasts for a year. And usually most experts agree that you should have at least 3 to 6 months worth of food in your home, water, all that. And some people say you need to have a year or two's worth of stuff. So that's pretty hard to do unless you're doing it constantly. You can store stuff like this. This will last for 2 years, and that's just the sell-by date. I mean, the expiration date may be quite a bit longer than that. They have the little fruit drinks that you can just add to bottles of water. Whenever you are storing your own food, you can buy a prepackaged like this where you don't have to do anything to it. It's already going to be able to be stored for a long time. Or you can buy Mylar bags, fill them up, use a flat iron to seal them up after you put your oxygen absorbers in there, and it will last for years. It's a good idea to have medical supplies, Band-Aids, first aid cream, soap, candles, anything that you think that your family is going to need in case of an emergency. It doesn't have to be a global emergency. It could just be, I got laid off, not going to have enough money to buy food. This way you're prepared later on in case something does happen. And there's been, seems like more and more natural disasters happening all over the world. In the last 10 years, it seems like there's been, they're getting worse and worse. Because you never know. Whenever something like that happens, you don't want to be caught unprepared. You can buy glow-in-the-dark light sticks. You can use oil lamps, candles, anything like that to come up with another way to have light. It's a good idea to try to find alternative sources of energy. We use wood heat during the winter time. You don't have to pay for it, and you just go out and have to work for it, but it's a lot cheaper that way. Everything's just getting more and more expensive. The more things are costing, the less money you're bringing in. It's harder to prepare just in case something happens. You can store water. You can buy pre-packaged water, and it'll last for a long time. You can also filter and purify your own water. You can buy purification tablets. You can build your own water purification system with sand and charcoal in a big 55-gallon drum. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Being self-sufficient is a good idea, not just for an emergency situation, but for everyday situations. Grow your own food. Raise your own animals, hunt. Do whatever you can do to make sure that you're not spending all the money that you have to rely on going out to the grocery store every day to buy food, buy 1 can of of vegetables. I mean, that's just silly. It makes a lot more sense to me to buy a lot at one time, or as much as you can afford, to add to your stock for later on, just in case. So I just would like for everybody to take away from this today that it's better to be prepared for anything than for nothing. If you're not prepared for anything, you may not have the money to go out at the last minute to get what you need to get. Make sure your family has a plan, what you need to do in case of an emergency. Make sure you have first aid kits, food, water, all that stuff stored up, and you'll be better off in any case. And even if nothing happens, you don't have to run to the grocery store every day. You don't have to go to the grocery store every week. Just be prepared. It makes sense.